One of the things I was discussing recently in a founder developer group that I run was how the hell do you post content consistently, and keep coming up with ideas and so forth. This was basically coming from somebody who had promised that he was going to post 3 times a week and he was really struggling to come up with posts. There's ways to come up with content ideas and stuff, but fundamentally at his core was another problem, which was repeating the stuff that he had already talked about before. And we stumbled onto this topic, which I found very interesting and it was a good reminder for me as well, honestly. He was saying that it was impressive that I had been able to put out content for like 900 days straight or close to it. And somehow we got onto the topic of how, they discovered me through 1 or 2 videos about maybe how I used to price my proposals or how I structured my deals in my development agency, and that they learned a lot from that. And then they started watching my stuff and they just kept watching and watching. And then here we are. And one of the things I also reflected on was like, you don't really need new content ideas as much as you just need to make what was already working even better. And you just need to squeeze the hell out of the topic that worked in the first place and just rinse and repeat. And that's really it. I guess this comes to mind because like recently I've been on very much kind of like pivoting my business model and trying to figure out what's next, because I'm in search of basically a product that I want to build. And that means I'm tinkering. And so I'm not thinking as much about the agency stuff like I usually used to. But the best videos that I've made have typically been around the lessons that I learned while building my agency, right? That's something that I had maybe more experience than most beginners in, right? So I've been running my agency like 4.5 years. And so I've learned a lot of stuff about pitching and proposals and project pricing, and like, don't do milestone-based pricing because that's going to fuck you up when you need cash flow to pay your developers. If you want a structure where you get paid up front, like here's how to negotiate with the client, how to do guarantees and things like that. And it kind of dawned on me as well, like if I posted another one of those videos, it would probably be equally useful. Like I haven't posted it in a while. And so just going back to the shit that worked is always a good strategy. And then one of the other guys in the group was showing his LinkedIn posts that have been performing quite well recently. And he literally showed how he just looks at some accounts, and when there's a post that does really well, that gets like 6,000 likes, he will basically copy most of the post, change it a little bit to make it his own, change the wording, maybe add his opinion, but fundamentally it addresses the same topic. Maybe it uses a similar hook and it performs really well as well. I guess I wanted to get at this idea of like, most of businesses are really repeating what works again and again, more than you think. I have a good friend who's a singer, and she is asked to play the few songs that people know her for again and again, but very few people are going to, bother to ask for something new. People like play the hits. That is the fucking motto. And the same stands for content. The same stands for, if an ad works, then go with that. If an offer works, go with that. You want to repeat what's fucking working, not trying to invent new things. And as entrepreneurs, especially who are more beginners or like trying to figure this out, I think we spend far too much energy thinking or in some shape or form trying to invent new things. If my goal was to squeeze as much as I could out of YouTube immediately, I should absolutely go back to the stuff that worked and just fucking do it again, and then cut it up into shorts, and then, make it into a million different long form and short form pieces and just continue to remix them essentially. And then maybe I'll do a Q&A where I give people the same advice that I put in my video, but it's just for different formats, which by the way is what Alex Hormozi does, for example, or Dave Ramsey, who hosts like this talk show that he's been doing for like 20 years. And he gives the same advice every single time, but people still call in and they'll still ask, for my particular situation, what would I do? The advice is the same effectively. Of course, it's nice to have someone tailor it to your situation a little bit more, but fundamentally, like the principles are always there. You will be asked to play the hits over and over and over. You squeeze the most juice out of whatever starts to work, and you keep going down that road. And the reason I found this analogy quite interesting with music is because I think business is also increasingly like being an artist. And the reason I say that is because right now with AI, like building stuff is getting much cheaper. And everybody says that it's all about distribution. It's all about just figuring out marketing because AI can build everything. But that's not necessarily the case. It's easy to make music. That doesn't mean it's easy to become Drake or to become Katy Perry or Taylor Swift or whatever popular artist you're into. Like, just because I have GarageBand on my laptop doesn't mean that I can be a top artist. Like, just because building is cheaper doesn't make it easy to build good products. But anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent and kind of side idea. But for now, I'm gonna leave you with that idea. Try and repeat more, try less, do the stuff that works. It probably requires less novel thinking, maybe than you think. It just requires more action. And action of the stuff that you've already done before. Just do more of it. Whatever works, just keep doing it. Anyway, thank you for watching. This was a useful thought. And I hope to see you in the next video too.